Okay, continuing on here. There's been a little bit of space between the last video and this one, but let's go forward. So we have here Earth 2, and this is a lovely picture of a cat. And you know, I'm thinking of the designation Ellen's given to the twos, which is sensitivity. And this is really an interesting choice for that number because, of course, cats are extremely sensitive. And they also have a dual nature. You know, they love to sit and soak in the sun, but they also come alive at night. And they have that sense of mystery about them, kind of keeper of secrets. You know, they figured prominently throughout history as an animal associated with wise women, with magic. So this is Earth 2. And C10. Glorious colors here. And I think from what I remember, this is a starfish, obviously, and the theme has to do with really allowing oneself to expand into the atmosphere from that core life force, that center of vitality, and really allowing that interface with your environment. So beautiful colors here, and I like the spiral there in the middle. Earth 4. So there's a story for me with this card. When I first saw this card, when I was flipping through the deck, I liked the colors and the shapes, and but I didn't read the description of it. I'm trying to just see which side is better for the, maybe that side's better. I didn't read the description of it and assumed that these were hippopotami wading through a river. So a few weeks later, I had a dream in which this card appeared, and then it dissolved into the scene of a very silty, muddy river. It was clean, but it looked like the rains had just come. And swimming down the river was this enormous female hippopotamus with a very benign but kind of all-encompassing and strong and protective atmosphere. And she was swimming slowly by me and her. I was very drawn to her ears, which were perfectly round and so delicate in relation to the bulk of her body, and they were swiveling back and forth and just taking in her environment. And she was aware of me as she swam by. There was a sense of resonance with each other. And as she swam by, the name Tawaret came up into my consciousness. And then I woke up. So I looked up Tawaret because it was familiar to me. And it turns out that Tawaret is an Egyptian hippopotamus goddess who is a goddess of fertility and childbirth and protector of children, and very fecund, and you know, all the kinds of energies that you would associate with that. So when I had read that, I wanted to see what Ellen had to say about this card. And when I read what she said, it turns out that these are not hippopotamus at all. If you look closely, they're actually they're beetles. They're called rhinoceros beetles. Maybe you can see their horns there. So just going to read what she says, because there is actually a little bit of interface. These are a lot of interface, actually. Here we go, Earth 4. So, handfuls of miniature stone offerings from the Old Palace period in the form of rhinoceros beetles were found in a peak sanctuary on Crete. They accompanied the figurines of women and were symbols of fecundity, their horns representing male potency. The most basic requirement of life on Earth is its continuance, something modern people often take for granted in this populous age. Fertility includes not only virility and conception, but the ability to bring the young to term and deliver them alive. Prayers to ensure this continuation are the most ancient and fundamental of all. So she goes on to talk a little bit more about its relationship to the scarab dung beetle of Egypt that is representative of the cycle of life and death and rebirth, and who the beetle is associated with. And for the Minoans, she says the Olympian was the cyclically dying and reborn consort of the eternal goddess and represented the fertility of the land. So messages from the beetle are: new life must be fed with the old. You need to get down to basics, build the foundation first, and a small element is crucial to the larger picture. But that first one, new life must be fed with the old, is really quite beautiful in terms of accepting all those parts of ourselves and not tossing them out as we continue to move forwards, not rejecting those parts that were less developed, unfinished, kind of unripe, but using them as material to go forwards, as compost, to continue to unfold so that they inform who we are becoming. So in relation to my dream, I found this a really kind of very interesting little journey. So this card is quite potent for me because of that. Let's see what we have left here. So Sky 5, I've pulled this a fair bit. This is called a roller bird, and it's known to be quite aggressive and noisy and very much about defending its territory, but also being very watchful and kind of discerning. And so the card is about visibility, about claiming space, those kinds of ongoing lessons. Beautiful colors again and shapes. And then finally there is Sky 4. And these are two partridges. And I think in the same way that the butterfly represented the soul to the Greeks, the partridge represents the soul to the Minoans, but a soul that is very actively working on the earth and with always this sense of the unreachable heavens. And apparently as a bird, they often work much better in pairs than they do singly. So this card is about that, about learning to work with other energy, learning to communicate so that things work out for the best, that kind of thing. But beautiful colors, strong shapes. So that is it for the numbered minors, and now I will, geez, it's already 10 minutes almost. I'll go through the progression of the courts with the earth suit, and then I'll just share a few favorites from some of the other court cards. So we have the worker, the earth worker, and here we see a bull leaper, a woman. So this, being a worker, it's all about the very practical details and what kinds of things that might require. So here I think it has to do with bravery, about timing, about knowing when to move and when not to. And we have the Earth Priestess, and she's quite different from what we have traditionally seen, the famous Minoan snake goddess with her hands raised, because these snakes are actually household snakes and they're non-poisonous. So it's a very different, much more prosaic relationship that she has with them. And the card has a beautiful description about how she is so attuned to the kind of movement of the snake as it glides along the earth, and learning to understand the earth through different senses, through smell and sound, and then the actual feeling body. We have the Earth Master. And my card of the year, the Earth Mistress. She's also called, I think, Mother of the Mountains and Valleys. And then a few more of the courts. Here's a sea worker and a sea mistress. Ellen talks about the position of the hands here being very receptive and kind of in a state of reverence. Sky worker. Beautiful colors and interaction here between the bird and the woman, even though the bird is not facing her. There's a lovely feeling between her and the bird. Sky Priestess. I pulled this one a fair bit, and I love her deep bend into the earth, combined with the fact that her head is turned away, to the side. There's the sense of that kind of this and the fulcrum, where that fulcrum is, that twist where it meets up in the body, that point of dynamic tension. And here she's actually performing a dance, not as an offering, but to actually become the goddess. And then Art Worker. She is collecting the saffron from the stigma of the crocuses to dye the robes of the priestesses. So there's a sense here of the work, of one's work being, finding that place where it's exalted and sacred, the sacredness of the everyday. And then finally, Art Priestess, who is holding a spray of poppies here. And so as a priestess, she's very much somebody who navigates between the unconscious and the conscious realms and watches dream and vision and that kind of thing. Beautiful again, with the leaning against the tree and the brown earth and her bare feet and the whiteness of her skin. And then you have the sun and the moon up here. It's a gorgeous image. So that is it. We are at almost 15 minutes of time with this deck. And if anyone would like to see the entire minor suit without words, like just a flip through, let me know in the comments below. Otherwise, I hope you've enjoyed the journey with this gorgeous deck, and I encourage you to move on your impulse if you're drawn to it. Okay, Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.